Well, welcome to a new Harry's Garage video, and today's car is this Porsche Taycan in Cross Turismo form. I saw this car launched in 2018 at Geneva, well, the concept of it, and I thought if I was ever going to get a Taycan, this would be the one I would get. I had a Taycan 2 years ago. I can't believe it's 2 years, but it was November 2020, and the basic conclusion when I had that one in was it just was lacking a little bit of practicality, and I wished the range was that little bit better. Right, bring you bang up to 2022. And this Taycan has the same size battery, but remarkably a lot more range because Porsche released a software update in July of this year, and it improved the range by about 10%, 40 miles extra, so it's a bit more than 10% actually. But that has been retrofitted. You can retrofit it to all Taycans in the range, which I find intriguing, that there's no mechanical change, but this car does better range. Well, does it? I've taken it on a long trip to find out. I've also done some other things around the farm. Let's go and have a closer look. Now, the first big change since I last tested this car is in 4S form, the Taycan now comes with what they term the performance battery, the bigger battery, 93.4 kilowatt hour as standard. And I'm surprised about the pricing. This car, recommended retail price with no options, 88,270. When I tested it 2 years ago, it was 83,580, but the battery, the bigger battery, was a 4,600 option. Now that is standard. So the price hasn't actually moved at all in 2 years since it's been out. Cross Turismo is a premium of about 2,500 over the standard body shape. And you can tell this is Cross Turismo, but it has these sort of protectors here. And it's also got this sort of lip here. This is not metal, this is plastic. I'm not sure how it would cope with off-road and that sort of thing. They don't sell it as an off-road vehicle, although there is a gravel button inside, an option. Colour on this car, well, it's ice grey metallic, a 1,683 option. So yeah, expensive option. Just some of the options on this car. There's this wheel design, 20-inch Taycan Turbo Aero design wheel. So this sort of infill bit here, it's all about aerodynamics with this car. So the price with all the options on this car, I ended up £110,000. And I think the Cross Turismo is a better shape to me, and it's a more useful shape. This car is fitted with what they term the off-road design pack, and that includes these strange things. I couldn't work out what they were when the car first arrived, but they're actually body protection. And then you've got these two ports. It's got an electric port. If I do this, it does that, opens there. And the other thing about it, it's quite a big car. It's almost Range Rover size. It's almost 5 meters long, this car, 4,974. New Range Rover is 5 meters and 54 centimeters, so about 75 mil longer. The wheels on it, 20-inch, but also taller tires. You don't get the 30-section tires on your Cross Turismo. You get these sort of, normal, what I would term fairly normal tires. They're the Pilot Sport 4, they're not 4Ss. The Pilot Sport 4 is standard kit on this car. Come around the back, and this is the big change, obviously, because it's a hatchback rather than being a booted car. It's probably a bit of a black hole in there, but one of the surprises is it's not quite as big. The size of this boot is rated at 470 litres, so it's only about 70 litres bigger than the saloon, but it's just more usable being a hatch. There's a little thing here to keep your charge cable in there. It's all very black, and I quite like the way the seats flip down and you get a flat floor. Another surprise with this car is I went round with my trusty magnet, and it doesn't stick to any of the body panels at all. Nothing, not the wings, not the structure. Even when I opened the door, and I thought, surely the inner structure must be steel. No, not at all. The only thing I could get the magnet to stick to, I was getting worried, was the door hinge, just there. So that's steel, but the whole car seems to be constructed from aluminium. And even so, it is quite heavy, this car. Unladen weight 2245. But you do get 2 boots with your Taycan, because there's one up the front here as well. Not huge, I think it's 94 litres or something, I'll flash it up. But it is bigger than the boot on the SF90. So anyway, there's a quick dash around the car. Let's take it outside, have a look inside, and then see how it drives. First thing you notice when you get in is actually it's quite a sort of low sill because it's got this battery in the floor. It's very easy to get in and out of, but there's this huge B pillar, and so you sort of get in and then you have to go back to where the seat is. I think it's one of those that all motors forward. When I turn it off, do that, yeah, it motors forward, and to make it into drive I do that. And we know the interior of this, you know, this glass screen, at least it doesn't look like an iPad sort of stuck on the dash, and you get this screen here that does other controls as well. I'm not sure about this upholstery though, this £2,500 option to not have leather, non-leather interior. This, I was looking through the manual on this because I just wanted to know about ride height and things, and unfortunately it says, yeah, Taycan. It does not know the Cross Turismo exists. It does know the normal Turismo, but I looked through warranty and maintenance, and when I was looking through that I thought, oh, I wonder what the service intervals are. And yeah, service record starts at the beginning, and oil change, oil inspection, spark plugs need changing as well, yeah, drive belts, fuel filter replaced. So it doesn't actually get a dedicated warranty book, which surprised me for the Taycan. Here I've got, under here I've got, whilst charging for my phone there, I've got a little cubby hole underneath here. It's not a bad layout. It is a little tight inside. This car has the panoramic roof, which is very nice when you're in the back. As a driver, well, I don't see it. I have to really look up and crane back and see it. It's very tinted as well. I love the small wheel on it. We'll come into that in a moment. But the gear selector is down here, and just drive and reverse is literally this sort of toggle. Just feels odd. There's no paddles, no nothing. So yeah, and obviously you set off in silence. Now I could, if I wanted, I can go to electric sport sound. This is an option on this car, and I can turn it on, and then you get sort of electronic noises that Porsche think this car should sound like. I don't know why it's an option. There you go. So anyway, I'm going to head out. Well, I'm not going to head straight out onto my favourite bit of road. I'm actually going to just turn left, and I'm going to press gravel on here and just take you to a little bit of the farm, because I discovered something about this car the other day and it was very surprising. You'll join me in a moment. Now when you press gravel, it does some trick things with the sort of traction controls, but it also puts the ride height up, and it doesn't go super high, but it is higher than a regular Taycan, especially with the off-road kit. And I just took it in this field just to see if this traction control and etc. works. And the last time I was in here was with the new Defender. I was on the Harry's Farm channel. I'll put a link up there to it in the review, because this is my steepest field on the farm, and there's no way this car should be performing in here at all. But I looked on the configurator and I couldn't believe some of the shots they had of the Taycan and what it could do. And this is a really steep hill, and here I am in a Taycan with gravel pressed, and this car can generate traction from I don't know where. And again, it rained overnight, so that it's damp. This isn't dry grass, and this is properly steep. This isn't the steepest part of the field, but it just gives you a sort of idea of what this car can do. Go back down, and I will now go up the steepest part of this field. And off-road vehicle is funny. Automatic gearboxes are good in a true off-roader, because they're very soft in how they set off, and I think that's what's going on here with these electron traction control. No way should this Cross Turismo be able to do this. Very clever Porsche engineers have done something with the way the traction control, how it's controlling electric motors. I'm on regular road tyres, and I am in an extremely steep grass field. I'm going to put the brakes on again. Full ABS. I cannot stop on this slope. Look at that. I cannot. That is how steep this field is, and yet I can drive up there with gravel pressed. I am
gobsmacked. I'm not going to try the Wall of Death hill that I took the Defender up because it just hasn't got the ground clearance to do it. But let's see if I stop. Can I make this thing skid? How does that happen? Anyway, you're not going to use it very often, but if you're ever in a muddy field or on snow in a Cross Turismo, you'll be fine. It's as good as anything. This thing on winter tyres in the snow, I bet is epic. But if I just turn the traction control off one, yeah, restricted stability control. The thing is, it hasn't got the full clearance. If I press lift, there's a little bit of a lift here. If I press lift, it's only got 176 mil of, here we go. Now it's not getting up here. So yeah, that, you can sort of see how much that traction control is doing. What a machine. I am truly impressed with what this car can do off-road. Now, that's the end of the off-road test. Let's get back onto a bit of tarmac and do more sensible things with this car. We're now back on tarmac as we're where we should be, and I've had this car a few days, and one of the key things I wanted to do was to check that range really had gone up. It wasn't just telling porky-pies when it's saying it's got 249 miles, and I think it was just 250 miles when I set off this morning. And I went to have a look at my Lancia Zagato in rebuild, and that is about 114 miles away, so 130 miles round trip, or thereabouts. I set off, and there's a mode here. I mean, normal now is what it sets off in, but you can also use something called range, and that limits your top speed to 80 miles an hour, and it just enhances the range. Because I didn't know, you know, if you got roadworks on the way there and you get a diversion, suddenly you might have to do another 20 miles and it all gets a bit critical. Anyway, I've set off, and by the time I actually reached Day and White's, the total range I had, 157 when I got there, range left, so 270 miles true range by using range on here. It's impressive. It is a dramatic improvement to where the Taycan 4S, the last time I used one, and with the same battery, so it's not a different car. On the way home, I thought, well, this is an opportunity to try one of these fast chargers, and I needed a pee, so I stopped at Common Services, and there's Ionity chargers there, and if you buy a new Taycan in the UK, you have 3 years membership to some special pack, and it gives you a discounted rate at Ionity. I think it's about half the price, normal price, 30 something pence per unit to fill up, and you also get the use of the Porsche superchargers as well, so Porsche Ds have put them in as well. And it was very easy, and I liked the way you could sort of see how much charge each car was at by a little sort of white light on the side of the charge unit, so you can see, oh, he's nearly finished, he'll be gone soon. And dashed in, got a sandwich, came back. It was only about 20 minutes, and I'd added 77 miles in my short time I was there. Couldn't be easier. I saw a peak rate, I think, of 145 kilowatts going into the car. Yes, since the last time, in 2 years, I can see the outside charge network is definitely improving, and I just love a range that I can believe on the dash. That is so handy. So I've changed it to range, and it's gone up to 255 miles. I'll put it back to normal, 248. So all that bit was very good. The other peculiar thing with it, it has this sail function, so there's no real regen going on. You can turn on recuperation and auto, but if I take my foot off the accelerator, I am just stuck at 20 miles an hour. It's like knocking it into neutral all the time, and it's something to watch because your speed can go up, and so you think you're in, there's a 20 limit there, and suddenly you find yourself you're doing 26 because you've just no engine, so no, you haven't touched the accelerator, but you've just gained speed. So they obviously like it more than the sort of one pedal feel you get in other cars with full on recuperation and then full go, things like that. But on this car, no, it doesn't do it. Other thing about the Taycan, you've got these two electric motors, but the rear motor has a 2-speed gearbox, single speed on the front, 2-speed on the back. And you can just sense when it changes gear. If I go to sport, you might just hear it. There you go, just a higher pitch. So I'm in second. Normally it works in second gear and gives it increased range, etc. If I select Sport, there it goes. Yeah, and that gives it a much more aggressive throttle. Right, here's the delimit sign, and now I'll power out of here. Oh, God! It's the instantaneous hit which you get with all electric cars, but it's enhanced when you select Sport, because instead of accelerating in fourth gear, you're doing it in second gear, in effect. That's what it feels like. Phone Porsche, how have you got this increase in range? And basically it's software related, but it also disconnects the front motor just to reduce the amount of drag. And the other thing I notice, if I do go to range, it lowers the car as well. So it's all to do with aero, lots of trickery, lots of electronics. But as I say, I do like the way it's retrofitted to all Taycans. I'm very surprised, in a good way, how well it rides, this car. Okay, it's got the weight, but I think the Cross Turismo just raises suspension more, so it's got a little bit more wheel travel. You've got the adjustable dampers, or the electronic dampers on this, so you can change the damping settings. And yeah, it's a very comfortable car to travel in. So wide tracked, I mean, it is a very wide car, it's wider than a Range Rover, but with the low down battery, etc., its C of G must be really low, and that's why it you don't feel the roll at all. It feels very squat and very quick through the corners. Just to hear it change there, it's funny, you just detect the gear change every now and then, and it quickly pops it back in a second. So now I'm in normal setup here, it will swallow this. Yep, doesn't exist around here. And here, steering's nice. Steering's really nice, natural feel, even though I know it's electric, but I could absolutely fly through there if I wanted to lose my licence. There's just an ingrown stability from having that battery really low down. It's got four-wheel steer option on this car and the two electric motors, and it powers around. It is beautifully composed through corners, this car. The only slight oddity I have is the feel of the brake pedal. And you sort of notice it because everything else is beautifully done. As I say, the steering, but the brakes, it's like they don't grab or anything, but there is this movement. There is never a sort of solid pedal where you move from regen to sort of the physical brake disc taking over. And if you're used to this sort of performance and how well this car is, I would prefer a more solid feeling pedal rather than one that has more movement and it continues this slight bottomless. You're never quite sure how far you're braking. Are you really pushing the braking? So it's this slightly unnatural feel there. I'm going to turn it up to Sports Plus now. Adds a bit of drama in the sound, and it also stiffens the dampers. And I can see it's also lowering the car, going down to even lower the centre. Yeah, 2 points low. This is as low as this car can go. It feels odd not changing down for a corner. You sort of one-dimensional drive. Yeah, there's that sort of bottomless pedal, and then accelerate out of here. And my goodness, it covers up, and off you go. Traction is a non-issue, because we found out in that grass field you're just not going to spin the wheels on this thing. It is amazing, and I can power through there and use the weight. Powers out the car. It's very impressive dynamics, this car. Right, I'm going to calm things down and let's run through the likes and dislikes. Alright, kicking off the dislikes, I think the number one, yes, the range has improved. But there are cars out there with a much better range. This has gone up from low 200s to higher 200s, 270 I think is about peak. But it should be better than that. You know, say Tesla can do getting on for 400 miles on a charge, and Porsche should be better than this. I did get it to 3 miles per kilowatt hour, which is good going, but should be better. Then the interior. It's hard to judge. I've only driven this non-leather option on Taycan, but it doesn't feel a £110,000 car in sort of quality of the materials in here. I wouldn't tick that box personally, and I just wonder if that would actually lift it, what the standard interior actually looks like. Another dislike of this car, though it's quoted at 570 horsepower, you only actually get the boost, the extra horsepower, when you select launch control. And you set off and you have all the full power available. The rest of the time it's at 490 horsepower. So it's only when you're doing a standing start, which I think only journalists do anyway, do you get the enhanced horsepower. So I feel that's a bit of a con really. I feel it should be available. As soon as I select Sport or Sports Plus, the high horsepower capacity of this engine, motors and battery should be available to you. It's just not particularly charismatic to drive. It does amazing things, but it's this one-dimensional linear issue when you've got an electric car, and it's more so here because this is a performance of Porsche, and although it's extremely good and very competent, I can't say it's engaging in a way that I expect a performance car to be. But moving on to the likes, well, there's plenty of those. First off, the design. I do think it looks very modern, Porsche, and desirable. I think Porsche are onto a winner here because the original air-cooled 911 didn't mean that they ended up with a great big grille they then have to graft on. You think about BMW where they're going with their great big kidney grills. Well, that's because they had a radiator in the front of the car when they've tried to make it bigger and cartoonish. Porsche don't have that issue because they never had a front grille on their cars because they were air-cooled. And so grafting the Porsche look onto this just works. It doesn't need a radiator. Audi's the same. So I do like the design of it, and particularly in Cross Turismo form. Then ride handling. The ride is very relaxed, very good, and I can alter it obviously on here, normal, sport, etc. And I wasn't expecting how much suspension travel it was going to have and how it swallows bumps and compressions. It's terrific. The handling, exceptional. Low CFG, wide track, is bound to be good. That's what electric cars do. Then it's just easy to use. All makes sense in here. I get in and it's a piece of cake to operate, and I like that on a modern car because it's not always the case. And then charge network, and I love the way that Porsche in the UK give you that card and I just boot it round it. It's even in normal. Yeah, there's a slight pitch, there was a little bit of roll there. It felt very natural because I got it in normal. I really like this car. I liked it much more than I expected when I booked it in, and it just feels a more stylish option to me than Tesla. Tesla is the one to beat. They have the supercharged network, they have the range, and they're at a better price point. I would pay the premium to have the Porsche sort of kudos and the character of this car. So that's my conclusion on this. A real step on from when I last drove a Taycan 4S. They've improved every area I hoped they would, the practicality of the hatch, etc., and the range. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, keep watching, keep subscribing. More videos coming on very soon.